So I've been trying to answer this question for 30 years, 40 years, maybe 30 years. And the question is this: what is God's will? I'm not a Christian, I'm not a biblical person. I believe, I won't say what I believe. I study all religions. I'll say what I believe. I believe that all religions are true, in the sense that they are truths of the mind and the human experience, and that we can find resonance in our quote-unquote soul in any religion. And no one religion is superior to other religions. They all are truths of the mind and truths of the culture of which they spring. So what is God's will, right? Usually when you start talking about that, people instantly drop into Christianity or Islam or Judaism, those three big Middle Eastern monotheistic religions. But I've been trying to reconcile Jordan Peterson and Joseph Campbell and the Stoics and the ancient philosophers. And so I was Joseph Campbell's super into Schopenhauer. And so I just started to learn a little bit more about Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer says this super interesting thing. He says that his work stands on the shoulder of Kant's, which is that you can't have an objective experience of reality. Your experience of reality is limited by your human representation of the world around you. When you see a tree, you think it's a tree objectively, but it's only subjectively filtered to our mind. I think with modern science, it's like, duh, that's super obvious, right? We can only see it in a particular wavelengths of light and experience it in types of hearing, and now we know that there's a million billion different ways to experience that thing. And so this idea that I can't have an objective reality because I'm a subject inside of this reality, and I can only have my subjective perception. And that, by the way, is why culture is so important. That's why culture is king in many ways. Culture defines us as social beings. But so Schopenhauer takes this idea to the next level and says, okay, well, there is a little doorway into the mystical realization of the reality of the universe. And that is the difference between, like, I can experience my hand objectively and also not objectively, subjectively, like there's my hand outside my body. Well, just there's my hand, part of my body. But also I can feel what's going on with my hand, and I can feel what's going on with my body. And then he takes it to the next level, is that I have a personal will, right? And that personal will, there's two ways to think about the personal will. It's either I have a personal will and the universe doesn't exist and everything is me, right? That's one way to look at it. And that's basically, if you're a crazy person, then you think that. And so it's just silly to entertain. You can entertain that if you want, but it's just dumb. There's no evidence. And so the other thing that Schopenhauer says is that there's either just my personal will or there is will. And will exists. Like the universe, the nature of the universe is will and matter. And those are the two parts of the universe. So I think the way I'm answering this question right now, which really is making a lot of sense to me, because the problem that you always run up against is, people say, oh, it's God's will, or I'm following God's will. Then they run into this interpretation, and so many atrocities have been plagued humanity over the years by people trying to implement God's will. So if you just step back and go, will, God's will is another way of saying the will force in the universe. That the universe is will. The whole thing is will. It's the animating force of the universe, and that's what people call God, right? God's the creator of the universe. We could just say it's the animating force of the universe as well. So when you say God's will, I'm going to do God's will, I think the way that makes sense to me is what I'm doing is I'm aligning my personal will with this kind of intangible oneness, the willness of everything. So everything has this will force in it. And inside of that will force, if we align with it, then we align with nature. We harmonize. We are one with the universe. So it's very difficult to have a mystical life where you're just constantly in touch with the oneness experience of the universe, except this is, I think, the critical part of why these religions work, is because when you say, I align my life with God's will, what you're doing is you're taking your individual self out of the picture and putting yourself in alignment with this transcendent force of will, which is everywhere, animating everything. Especially for life. Life is will. It just is. I don't know what matter is. There's organizing rules for, the matter of the universe. And maybe that's will as well. But life just seems obvious. It is will. So in a sense, when you say, I'm aligning myself with God's will, what you're saying is you're aligning yourself with the oneness, the principle of oneness in the universe that animates all life and animates all being and animates consciousness. I think, in a way, why we're so amazing as human beings as opposed to other creatures is because of this pinnacle of will. We have evolved to a state where will is so profound. In a lot of ways, people say, we are the earth made conscious and of itself and able to manipulate itself so much more than the evolutionary natural forces. So in a way, I'm a deep ecologist. I really believe in the wisdom of ecology, but I also believe that we are this experiment in ecology. We are. I think that's my evolving idea, complex idea around what are humans. We're this ecological force. We're not transcendent of ecology and nature. We are, the apex natural creator and predator. So back to this question of will, and I just swore on my little recording and got all aggro behind this car because they were riding my butt. That was interesting. I haven't done that in a long time. I had a little extra caffeine this morning. I hate that chuckle when I do that chuckle. It's like my nervous chuckle. Anyways, I'm going off to go surfing. Try to transcend my personal will and find some unity with the will force of the universe. So how can that be useful? I guess I don't want to put up anything that's not useful. How can that be useful? For me, I never got this okay, I will be done and, I'm going to just God's will. I always left with well, what the hell is that? And how the hell am I supposed to know? And I don't, the irony isn't lost on me that I'm saying, what the hell is God's will? Nervous chuckle. Yeah, what is God's will? I think the honest God's truth is that you don't know, I don't know, none of us really know. And the best we can do is try to align ourselves with this cosmic will force. And when we align ourselves with the cosmic will force, that peace, that joy, that connectedness, that being held works, you know. I think that's, you know, to me, that's the bottom line. That's why Christianity works, is because you feel held. You know, I was going to make another piece about why I don't need a personal God. I don't need an image in my mind of a personal God who loves me. You know, to me, that's, I'm sorry, you guys. I'm glad it works for you, but to me, it's just, it's childish. You know, I don't need some entity to go like, okay, you're the most important thing in my life. Like, all I need is to have the experience of being connected to the whole, of being part of the whole. And once I'm part of the whole, then my individual fears and concerns and angers, all that stuff is secondary, because I'm part of, you know, the universe. I am a child of the cosmos. I am, you know, a result of all of creation.